The exercise wrapped up easier than it should have. Clean formations, clean rooms, not a single mistake from the rookies. By the time the last truck rumbled off the gravel lot, the forest had settled into that thick, heavy quiet that always shows up after a long day. Tyler, Henry, and I stayed behind for the final sweep. Standard protocol. We'd done it 100 times. Check the forgotten corners of the old training site, make sure no one left gear behind, verify every line of the perimeter was clear before locking it down. Easy job. 15 minutes, tops. Dusk dropped fast, faster than I liked. 1 minute the sky was pale orange, the next it was a gray-blue smear behind the tree line. The air felt wet, like it had soaked through my sleeves without touching my skin. Our flashlights cut thin cones through the haze, catching dust and mist hanging between the trees. We were halfway through the second line of our sweep when I saw it. A figure, full tactical gear, standing perfectly still between two pines. I stopped walking before my brain even caught up. Tyler lifted his light. Henry shifted closer to me. None of us said a word at first. It looked exactly like one of our rookies. Same helmet, same vest, same stance. Just still, too still. "Hey," I called out. "Challenge code." Silence. I tried again, louder this time. "Challenge code." Nothing. The figure didn't move, didn't raise a hand, didn't flinch under the lights. It just stood there like someone had carved it out of the dark and propped it upright. Then the head tilted. Not a normal tilt. Not a confused rookie trying to figure out why we were yelling. It tilted so far, so slow, almost 70 degrees to the side. My stomach tightened in a way I couldn't explain. Before any of us reacted, the radio clipped to my vest crackled awake. Captain Dalton's voice came through, steady and clear. "All personnel accounted for. Every rookie's already back at base." I froze. Tyler swore under his breath. Henry's light shook just a little. The figure took a single step toward us. No crunch of leaves, no shift of gravel, not even the whisper of fabric. Just a step, like the ground absorbed the sound before it reached us. We moved forward slowly, trying to get a better angle, trying to make sense of what we were seeing. And then, right as our beams crossed its chest, the silhouette drifted backward behind the nearest tree. Not walked, not ducked, slid, like the dark itself pulled it out of sight. I stood there for a long second, heartbeat caught somewhere in my throat. Maybe it was just a shadow, I told myself. Maybe I was tired, but the air behind that thought felt wrong. Very wrong. I've spent 12 years doing SWAT work, and the forest has a way of sanding down whatever ego you bring into it. It doesn't care how long you've been an operator, how many calls you've run, or how tight your formations look on paper. Out here, you pay attention or you pay the price. Most days, that simple rule keeps you alive. I guess that's why I'm the way I am now. Quiet, watching everything, always checking the map twice, sometimes 3 times. A few years back, I led a team slightly off route during a real assignment, nothing disastrous, but enough to leave a mark. Ever since then, terrain has felt personal to me. A conversation I'm always having. A conversation I never want to lose track of again. Our unit trains all over the state, but the zones around the outskirts of Daniel Boone National Forest in Kentucky are the ones we use the most. People think forest just means trees, but Daniel Boone is different. The air is thicker. The ridges cut hard through the landscape. The ground drops off without warning. It's humid even when it shouldn't be. And more than once, we've had rookies walk 10 feet in the wrong direction and end up somewhere completely different from where they meant to go. The abandoned training compound we use today sits right up against that tree line, a leftover from the 1980s. Its walls are cracked and bowed, its hallways half collapsed, its roof sagging under a skin of moss that hasn't been dry in years. Doors hang crooked on rusted hinges. A few metal frames still jut out of the concrete like broken ribs. Most people hate the place. I don't mind it. Old buildings tell the truth if you listen long enough. We had 8 rookies in the drill today. Good kids, nervous, stiff, but trying hard to impress. Tyler thinks they're soft. Henry thinks they're fine. I think they're rookies, nothing more complicated than that. My job was to run them through teamwork, clearing formations, silent signaling, basic communication. They did everything right. Too right. That bothered me more than I want to admit. Rookies don't run perfect drills. Someone always hesitates at a doorway or turns their muzzle too far inside a room or mixes up a hand signal or forgets to check the blind corner. That's normal. That's what training is for. But today, everything clicked, every move, every call, every sweep. At first, I chalked it up to them finally listening. But something small in me, the part that talks quietly when things don't add up, kept saying the same thing. It shouldn't be this perfect. Even during the day, there were little moments that didn't line up. Tiny things, easy to shrug off. One rookie swore he saw a small bobcat sprint across the trail, a quick blur of tanned fur disappearing into the brush. But when we checked the thermal camera, the screen showed nothing, not even a fading heat trail. Animals leave signatures, even the tiny ones. But the forest gave us a blank, as if nothing had moved through there at all. Later, during a reposition call, Dalton's transmission clipped. For 1 or 2 seconds, another voice bled through underneath his. Not enough to make out words, more like someone whispering in a different room, their voice pressed thin between the frequencies. Then it vanished. And Dalton didn't repeat himself. He didn't sound like he noticed anything wrong. Henry mentioned hearing footsteps behind our formation while we were shifting sectors. Not close, just a few paces back, trailing the group at a steady rhythm. When he turned around, nothing was there. No rookie out of place, no animal, not even a branch swaying the way it should have if something had brushed through. None of that set off alarms for me. Not then. Forest acoustics can play tricks. Narrow ridges bounce sound in weird ways. I've heard my own footsteps echo back at me before. Felt like someone was matching my pace exactly. Wildlife can be unpredictable too. A bobcat might vanish before a thermal sensor gets a clean read. And radios? Radios love to misbehave near uneven terrain. Half the time we blame the batteries when the real culprit is a ridge we can't even see. So I explained each glitch with the most reasonable answer I had. I think the others did too. By late afternoon, the rookies were smiling in that tired way people do after they think they've proven themselves. Trucks rolled up, gear clattered, Dalton signed off. The engines groaned awake and carried them down the dirt road toward base. I watched them leave. The dust rising behind their truck lights hung in the air like a curtain. When it finally settled, the forest felt different. Not dangerous, not loud, just expectant, like it had been waiting for the crowd to thin out. Henry said he'd meet us at the second line of the sweep. Tyler was already adjusting his gear, eager to get it done. I turned toward the trees and forced myself to breathe steady. Something in the pit of my stomach pulled tight. The drill had gone too perfectly, unrealistically perfect, and the quiet that followed felt like an answer I didn't want to hear. Night took the forest in a way that felt deliberate, like someone was dimming the world one notch at a time. By the time we stepped into the first line of our final sweep, the air had thickened into something closer to fog than humidity, wet, heavy, clinging to my vest. Every beam from our flashlights looked thinner, swallowed at the edges. Tyler moved ahead with that restless energy he always had, sweeping left to right, left to right. Henry stayed close to me, quieter than usual. None of us said it out loud, but the second we left the clearing, the mood shifted. It wasn't fear. Not yet. Just a sense that the forest had been waiting for the noise of the trucks to die before revealing whatever it wanted to reveal. We reached the second line of our sweep, a narrow trail shaped by runoff and old tire tracks, when Tyler stopped so abruptly I nearly bumped into him. "There," he said, voice low. I followed his flashlight beam. The figure was back. Same gear, same stance, same unnatural stillness. Farther down the trail now, half hidden by a shoulder of rock and two leaning pines. It didn't react to our lights or to the sound of our boots. It just stood there, facing us, like it had been waiting for us to arrive at this exact point. "Maybe one of the rookies stayed behind," Henry whispered. "No," I said automatically. "Dalton checked them out." Even as I said it, a part of me wanted to believe Henry, because the alternative, well, I didn't have an alternative yet, and that was worse. I raised my flashlight higher, steadying it with both hands, and centered the beam right on its chest. The figure moved, not by turning, not by stepping, not by reacting like a person who's suddenly being blinded by a high-lumen light. It pulled backward, fast, a clean, smooth slide behind the trunk of a tree, like someone had yanked it by the shoulders. No shift in weight, no recoil, no sound, just a straight, unnatural retreat that made my skin prickle under my gear. "What the hell was that?" Tyler breathed. "Could be light distortion," I offered. Even as the words left my mouth, they felt stupid. The forest doesn't distort light like that, and people don't move like that. We advanced slowly. Every branch crunch felt too loud, every breath felt too shallow. That's when the radio on my vest crackled to life. "Take the left trail, regroup there," Captain Dalton's voice said. Except the channel indicator on my display wasn't our channel, and the signal strength icon flickered like it was being fed through something unstable. I pressed the transmit key. "Captain, say again. Did you send that?" Silence. Tyler checked his radio. Henry did too. Nothing. No command, no traffic, not even static. A few seconds later, Dalton sent a real transmission on the correct channel, asking if we'd completed the first sector. He hadn't said anything about a left trail. When I pushed for clarification, he sounded genuinely confused. A mistake? Maybe. But Dalton didn't make radio mistakes, and he'd never route orders through the wrong channel, not during a live exercise, not even in training. "Something's off," Henry murmured. He didn't have to say what, we all felt it. We pushed deeper, keeping tighter spacing now. The forest pressed in, branches interlocked overhead, narrowing the light into thin strips. Every few minutes we'd pause to listen, but listening didn't help. The silence had weight, a thickness, like the forest was holding its breath. Then Tyler froze again. "Animal," he whispered. "Big one." I turned just in time to catch a blur of fur, brownish maybe, dart across the trail ahead of us. It moved fast enough to register as a streak rather than a body. Maybe a bear, maybe a big cat. My mind jumped to every possibility at once. We hurried forward, expecting tracks, disturbed soil, broken foliage, something. But the ground was untouched, undisturbed, as if nothing had crossed it at all. "Thermal would have picked that up," Tyler muttered. "Yeah, it should have." We kept moving. A few minutes later, Henry stopped walking. "Marcus," he whispered, "why'd you signal me to move right?" "I didn't signal anything," I said. "I just saw you," he insisted. "You were ahead of me. You turned and pointed right. I've been with you the whole time." Henry looked over his shoulder, back toward a fork in the trail we hadn't taken. His breathing quickened. A thin line of sweat ran down his cheek. I didn't push him on it, because I'd started to feel something strange too, like the forest was mirroring us, giving us reflections that didn't quite match. We reached a clearing, a small dip in the terrain with a rotted overlook railing slumped to one side. And that's where we saw the third anomaly. A person stood at the edge of the dip, gear on, helmet crooked, body pitched forward like they were struggling to stay upright. A rookie? Tyler whispered, but something was wrong with the shape. The stance was too bent, the trembling too rhythmic, the angles too sharp. "Hey," I called out, "identify yourself." No answer. The figure lifted its head. The mask sat too high. The eyeline was where the forehead should have been, like whoever, or whatever, was wearing it hadn't figured out how a human face worked. Then one arm lifted, slow, jerked, bent at an angle a human elbow can't bend. The motion resembled "help me," but only in the broadest sense. A sketch of the gesture, an outline, a guess. Tyler took a step back. "Nope, no way, that's a person." I raised my weapon, not sure if I meant to use it or just needed something between me and that shape. We moved forward in careful half steps. The figure shuddered, its legs buckled, its torso caved inward, collapsing like an empty suit, and then it scuttled away on all fours, fast, disappearing into the brush with a scraping motion like claws dragging across stone. I stood frozen, trying to make sense of what we'd just seen. Shapes, imitations, approximations of people, but wrong. Not human wrong. Blueprint wrong. As if something had seen humans from a distance and tried to recreate one from memory. "It's copying us," I murmured. Tyler frowned. "Copying what?" "Not us specifically," I said. "Just people, movement, outlines. But it doesn't understand how the parts fit." Henry swallowed hard. "So what the hell does understand?" Before I could answer, the forest answered for me. From deep inside the trees, farther than any of us could see, Captain Dalton's voice called out, "Henry, over here!" Henry jerked upright, but all three of our radios were silent. No lights, no transmission, nothing. The voice didn't come from the radio. It came from the forest itself, and the tone was close, almost right, but off by just a hair. Like someone had learned Dalton's voice phonetically but didn't understand the meaning behind any of the sounds. I felt the breath leave my lungs in a slow, cold wave. It wasn't just mimicking shapes anymore. It was learning to mimic us. I didn't waste time pretending we could finish the sweep. Whatever we were dealing with wasn't a lost rookie or some idiot wandering the forest. Something was wrong with the land itself, how it sounded, how it moved, how it breathed around us. "Back to the rally point," I said. My voice sounded steadier than I felt. "Now." Tyler didn't argue. Henry didn't either. We turned and started moving, quick but controlled, sticking to the trail we'd carved earlier in the afternoon. The forest changed behind us. I didn't see it change. I heard it. Trees whispering where the wind wasn't blowing, rocks clicking against each other when nothing touched them, the soft patter of steps that weren't ours. We kept going until I felt a burning tightness in my chest. I looked up and stopped cold. The bent pine. We'd already passed it. 10 minutes ago. Yet here it was again, leaning over the trail like a crooked finger pointing nowhere. "We're looping," I said. "Stay sharp, don't break formation." We pushed on, faster now. The ground sloped, then leveled, then sloped again. Light flickered between branches like someone was flipping a switch far away. 2 minutes later, the same bent pine leaned over us again. Tyler cursed under his breath. Henry's breathing picked up. The air tasted metallic, like static before a storm. We changed direction, cutting right at a fallen log I knew we hadn't crossed earlier. The terrain shifted under our boots, thick moss, then bare earth, then gravel, then moss again. I kept checking the compass mounted on my rifle. The needle trembled like it didn't know which way north belonged to anymore. The footsteps came next, faint, just behind us. But not matching our rhythm, Our cadence was even, tread, tread, tread. Instead of matching our footsteps, the sound behind us landed just a fraction late. One step, then a short delay, another step, then that same strange pause, like someone trying to copy our rhythm and getting it wrong every time. "Don't turn around," I whispered. Tyler stiffened. Henry swallowed a shaky breath. I could feel him trying not to look over his shoulder. Then Henry whispered, "Marcus, why are you ahead of us?" I froze mid-step. "I'm right here," I said. "No," he whispered, pointing ahead into the dark. "You're up there. You just told me to go right." I stared where he pointed. There was nothing but trees and shadow, until a small movement stirred behind a deadfall. A shape leaned out just enough to be seen. A silhouette. My silhouette. Head tilted. Arm raised. It gestured right. Henry took a step toward it. I grabbed his vest before he could take a second one. "Henry, look at me. I'm here. That's not me." He jerked away, confusion twisting across his face. And then, before I could get another word out, he bolted down the side trail, into the dark, toward the thing that mimicked me. "Henry!" I shouted. Tyler and I ran after him, but the trail split twice in the next 30 yards. Dense brush swallowed the sound of his boots. Then gunfire, 3 sharp bursts. Then silence. We sprinted toward the sound. Branches whipped our arms. Mud sucked at our boots. The beam of my flashlight jittered across trunks and roots and flashes of empty space. We reached a shallow depression in the terrain, an old runoff basin choked with vines. Henry wasn't there. But something else was. Casings. Fresh casings, still warm when I crouched to touch them. "Where the hell did he shoot at?" Tyler asked. I didn't know, but the pattern in the dirt suggested he'd fired in panic, not precision. 3 rapid shots, wild spread. He was shooting at shapes, at shadows, at whatever the forest showed him. "We've got to keep moving," I said. "Stay close." We climbed out of the basin. My light caught movement to the left, a massive body sweeping horizontally through the foliage. Broad shoulders, fur, something like a bear, except it moved without weight, without impact, without the grunt or the huff or the earth-shaking presence a real animal of that size should have had. It glided, smooth, silent, wrong. Tyler raised his rifle. "Marcus, don't fire unless you have—" Another shape bolted between the trees on our right, human-sized, fast, too fast. Tyler fired, 1 round, then another. The bullets cut through the figure, but instead of dropping, the shape fractured, splintered, broke into several pale outlines, each one peeling off into the dark like reflections shattering across water. I grabbed Tyler's arm before he could fire again. "Don't waste ammo, they're not. Just conserve it." He nodded, trembling. We pushed forward, senses stretched thin. I listened hard for Henry but heard nothing except distant echoes that didn't belong to anything living. Then my flashlight hit something that made me stop mid-stride. "Tyler," I whispered, up ahead. Henry, standing perfectly still, face pressed toward the trunk of a tall poplar, helmet slightly crooked, shoulders tense, as if someone had told him not to move a muscle. "Henry," I said, my voice scraped out of me. No reaction. We stepped closer. "Henry, talk to us. Are you injured?" A beat of silence, then, "Marcus?" The voice was his, but not quite his, a half-pitch too high, just the faintest wobble, like someone imitating him after hearing only a few seconds of his speech, a recording that hadn't finished buffering. "Henry," I said carefully, "turn around, slowly." His shoulders twitched, his neck moved in a small, wrong angle. "Marcus," the voice repeated, "behind you." Tyler jerked around before I could stop him. There was nothing behind us, nothing except the echo of that voice, still hanging in the air. and that was when I noticed what was missing. Henry's breathing, Henry's weight shifting, Henry's natural posture. The shape standing in front of us wasn't breathing at all. "Tyler," I whispered, "that's not Henry." The figure trembled. The mask shifted. The torso collapsed for a split second, like something inside it slipped out of position, and then reinflated in a jerky motion. Tyler fired. One shot, then a second. The figure stuttered under the impact, not like a body being hit, but like a glitch skipping frames. It vibrated, bent, sank into the underbrush, and vanished with a scraping whisper. Only silence remained. Cold, empty silence. Tyler backed up until his shoulder hit a tree. Where's the real Henry? I forced myself to scan every angle, every ridgeline, every possible hiding place, but the truth had already settled into the pit of my stomach. "I don't know," I said. "He might have run. He might have—" I didn't finish the sentence. I didn't need to. We didn't find tracks. We didn't find blood. We didn't find anything that proved he was alive or dead. Just absence. A void shaped like a person we could no longer reach. "Marcus," Tyler said suddenly, voice thin. I followed his gaze. Deep in the forest, past the ferns, past the break in the trees, two figures walked side by side. Both of them were Tyler, same height, same gear, same gait, perfectly synchronized, heads tilted inward at identical angles. My skin crawled. It wasn't copying random people anymore. It was copying us, and it was learning fast. We moved without speaking for a long stretch of time, minutes or hours, I couldn't tell. The forest had taken whatever sense of distance we had left and folded it into something smaller, tighter, suffocating. Every few steps, Tyler's breath stuttered behind me. Mine wasn't much better. I kept trying to swallow, but my mouth felt dry, like the air around us had stripped every bit of moisture from it. "Stay close," I said quietly. He didn't answer, but I felt him nod. We were deep enough now that even the trees looked unfamiliar. Too tall, too narrow, too many of them bent in the exact same angle, like the forest had copied one trunk and pasted it over and over in the dark. The terrain sloped in uneven ways, gentle 1 second, then sharp, then level, then repeating. It was like walking on terrain rendered by someone who understood the idea of a forest, but not the details. I kept looking for anything that resembled our earlier trail. Landmarks, disturbed soil, a broken branch one of us might have stepped on earlier. Instead, everything looked new, clean, untouched, and yet the ground carried this strange, muted heaviness, as if too many things had walked through without leaving a trace. My legs felt heavier too. Every step dragged, every breath scraped, not in a panicked way, just worn down. I felt older, slower, like the night had found its way inside my bones. "Marcus," Tyler said behind me, voice low and shaky. "Do you think Henry—" "Don't," I said. "Save that for later." He didn't push. I could tell he wanted to. But he held the words in his throat the way you hold something fragile. Not sure if saying it out loud will break it or break you. We trudged on until my light caught the faintest shimmer of something reflective in the dirt, a trail marker half buried under fallen needles, a small metal tab we'd hammered into a stump earlier in the day. "Hold up," I whispered. Tyler moved beside me. When he saw it too, his shoulders dropped with relief. Not relaxation, just a small release, the kind you get when the world finally hands you something real after an hour of lies. "We're close," I said. "The trail loop's just ahead. We stay on it, follow the markers, and we can—" The marker flickered. Not the metal, not the light reflecting off of it. The light itself flickered. My flashlight hummed with a thin, static-like buzz. Then another flicker. Then another. The beam stretched and shrank, like someone was breathing through it. Tyler's light did the same. Then both lights synced. Flicker, pause, flicker, pause. Same rhythm, same timing, not ours. "Don't look away from the ground," I said. "Keep walking." We followed the dim trace of the marker until another one appeared 10 yards ahead. Except when I moved closer, I realized it wasn't on a stump. It was hanging off a small sapling, same tab, same placement height, wrong tree. It was like someone had seen our marker placement once and tried to reproduce it at random. "We're being led," I whispered. Tyler didn't respond. I didn't blame him. We slowed down, partly because the terrain steepened, partly because the weight of everything felt like it was pressing into our ribs. Every breath felt like dragging air through mud. My brain kept replaying what I'd seen. Henry's voice coming from that thing, the wrong eye line on the rookie shape, the animal silhouettes moving like broken animations. My mind wanted to assemble everything into one coherent threat, one logic, one answer. It didn't get answers. It got pieces, the silhouettes, the voices, the mimicry, the way the terrain folded and repeated, the missing tracks, the silent footsteps. One idea rose slowly, like something surfacing after too much time underwater. It doesn't have a form, not a real one, not a fixed one. It doesn't choose shapes, it borrows them, badly. Fear becomes animal, trust becomes teammate, authority becomes command voice. Knowledge of the forest becomes misdirection. It never touches, never grabs, never restrains. Everything it does pushes you toward harm, but never by its own hand. Tyler stumbled behind me. I reached out and steadied him without thinking. "You good?" "No," he said, breath shaking, "but I'm still here." "Stay that way," I murmured. We kept moving, following whatever path the markers were trying to create. I stopped looking at the compass. I didn't trust it. I didn't trust the ground either, or the air, or even the silence. But I trusted patterns. Patterns never lie. And the pattern here was simple enough. It was strongest when only a few of us were left. It got braver, bolder, clearer. The perfect drill earlier, the flawless rookies, the lack of interference. It hadn't been boredom. It had been limitation. It couldn't reach through the noise of a dozen people. But three was perfect. A thought settled, heavy and cold. It wanted us alone. The trail curved again. Tyler slowed beside me. "Marcus," he said softly, "my light. It keeps twitching." "I know." The flickers shifted into a new pattern now. Long, short, almost like a code, almost like something trying to speak through the batteries. "Don't look at the lights," I said. "Look at me." For a moment he did. His eyes looked glassy, exhausted, stretched between panic and numbness. We moved again. The trees opened slightly into a narrow corridor-like passage. Branches arched overhead, forming a crooked tunnel that swallowed sound. It felt wrong to enter it, like stepping into someone's throat. Halfway through, Tyler slowed. "Marcus," his voice thinned. "Up ahead." I swung my beam forward. Something stood on the path. A person, still, straight, facing us. At first, my brain insisted it was Tyler. Same shoulders, same height, same gear, same tilt of the head. "Tyler," I whispered, "don't react, just stand still." He froze. The figure ahead didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't blink. It waited, patient and silent, like it had all the time in the world to watch us. "Marcus," Tyler whispered, "that's not me. Up ahead, that's not me." I raised my flashlight slowly, steadying my breath. The beam caught the figure's helmet, the shoulder patch, the radio clip. It was Tyler, perfectly copied, except for one thing. Its head tilted the wrong way, not slightly, sharply, almost 40 degrees to the left, like the neck had too many joints or none at all. The copy shifted 1 foot forward, not a full step, just enough to let us know it could move if it wanted to. Tyler's voice quivered beside me. Why is it standing like that? I didn't answer him. Because in that moment, the understanding settled into place so cleanly, it almost felt peaceful. It didn't want to kill us. It didn't need to. It wanted us confused, separated, afraid, turning on each other, running in the wrong direction, shooting at the wrong shapes. It didn't want blood. It wanted mistakes. All it had to do was keep mimicking, just a little wrong, just a little off, just enough to make us doubt what we saw next. Tyler took a shaky breath. Marcus, what do we do? I kept my eyes locked on the second Tyler. Its breathing was zero, its posture too perfect, its head tilt too mechanical, its shape too obedient to the outline it copied. We don't engage, I whispered. We keep moving, slow. Stay aligned with me. Don't look away from the path. Behind us, the forest exhaled in a long, low sigh. Ahead, the second Tyler tilted its head farther. Not threatening, not welcoming, just watching. I stepped backward, pulling Tyler with me. The figure didn't follow. It only pivoted a few degrees, tracking our movement like a motion sensor trying to guess what we were. The truth finally clicked into place. It doesn't want to kill us. It wants us to finish the job ourselves, and through the hollow quiet of that corridor of trees, the realization felt heavier than fear. It felt like acknowledgement, like the forest itself nodding back. Dawn came slowly, bleeding into the trees like a pale bruise. I didn't notice the light at first. I only noticed the silence, real silence, not the hollow kind that followed us through the night. The air felt lighter. The ground felt solid again. And when I looked over my shoulder, nothing watched us anymore. Tyler was gone. I called his name until my voice broke, until the morning scattered my breath into the cold air. Nothing answered. Nothing moved. The forest, for the first time in hours, felt empty. Not safe, just empty in the way a vacuum is empty. As if whatever had been there simply folded itself into the dirt when the light showed up. By the time the search teams arrived, I could barely stand. They found me on the trail, sitting with my back against a stump, trying to breathe normally again. They didn't find Tyler. They found Henry hours later, farther downslope, face down near a drainage bed. No wounds, no struggle, no sign he'd ever tried to fight anything off. The report came fast. Training accident, lost orientation. Words that fit neatly into a box no one wanted to open wider. They admitted me to the hospital next. Protocol when someone's been through traumatic environmental exposure. I spent a day under machines humming soft and steady, electrodes on my scalp, lights in my eyes, doctors speaking in calm tones that didn't match the tension in their hands. Neurological evaluation, normal. Psych eval, stable. Hallucination screens, clear. One doctor said, "Your cognition is intact. Whatever you saw wasn't generated by your mind." I didn't tell him that made it worse. Captain Dalton visited briefly. He didn't sit, just stood by the foot of the bed with his hands on his hips like he was bracing against some invisible pressure. "Take some time," he said, not a suggestion. When they released me, the sunlight felt too bright, too clean. I drove with the windows cracked, letting the cold air keep me awake. I wasn't going anywhere special, just home, a straight shot down an empty highway I'd taken 100 times before. I wasn't near the training zone, not even close. But as I passed a stretch of roadside forest, something caught in my peripheral vision, a dark shape standing a few yards back between two narrow trees. I hit the brakes hard. The tires fought the gravel before settling into the shoulder. My hands were shaking before I even opened the door. He stood there, same gear, same height, same tilt of the head. Henry, or something shaped like him. I blinked once, twice, and the trees were empty. No movement, no footprints, not even disturbed leaves, just the steady sound of my own breath, cold and uneven in the morning air. It didn't follow me, it didn't chase, it didn't need to. Some things don't disappear, they wait, it never attacks, it just waits until we finish the rest ourselves.